Throttle it up. And release the brakes. Just follow that center line. And then right around 70 knots, I believe. Takes a little bit to get this thing going, and then 70 knots we should be able to rotate.
Transporter from dispatch. Fly safe.
Alright, bring our gear up. Hold the flaps until about 90 knots and then bring them up. Alright, so we need to flow south. Now if we were to follow this way here, we're basically at the edge of the mountain range and we would flow out into Idaho. Actually, we're in Idaho right now. We're just a little ways over the border, but we would head over to Idaho Springs basically if we headed out that way. We're just going to turn around and then meet up with the major highway heading south back towards the south end of the valley, and then to a mountain pass. Now I'm probably banked just a little bit too much. One thing NeoFly will do is give me a comfort bonus depending on how much I bank the aircraft. That might have been a little bit too much. Actually, yeah, if I look over at my other window, I'm going to bring that up now. So you can see right over here in the log, mission info, comfort bonus lost. Yeah, so I've already lost my comfort bonus for this mission, but that's okay. One of those things that I tend to forget about sometimes. So while we have this up, on the right side is our moving map. Oh, and it'll actually show you a flight path as we've been flying, and where I lost my comfort bonus. There we go. Now, the last time we flew, we were at this little red dot right here, and that's Alpine. And we flew south down to Afton Municipal, down here. And then since then, I've flown back to Alpine, and then from Alpine, I flew down this road through the mountains here to Jackson, and then from Jackson up to Driggs Reed, and that's where we are now. So for this mission, we're headed back to Jackson to take a picture of a sign over here. But if I zoom in, there's a road right here that'll head south, and then through the mountains to the Teton Pass, through Wilson, and then to Jackson, and then straight up the highway from Jackson is that sign that we're supposed to take pictures of. So this makes sense to me as a good kind of VFR route to follow. Just follow the highway. And then we'll head back south, cross over through the mountain pass again, and then back north up to Driggs, where we started from. So I have this open on the other monitor, and despite the fact that this aircraft doesn't have a GPS, I do get one there if I choose to use it. I try not to. I'm trying not to navigate with that, but it is sometimes nice to look over and go, oh yeah, I'm in the right place. Especially for things like you'll see in this mission, when we get close to the point of interest, because this is a third-party client and not part of the actual game, it hasn't necessarily verified that what we're going to see is obvious and easy enough to find visually, that it stands out, that it's, you know, that you can get to it easily. So sometimes it's nice just to double check that, yeah, I'm going the right way. So let's put that away. And we're just following the highway right down there. Now I'm still in climb power because I was busy talking. It's typical for me. Bring it down to 2550 RPM. And we'll just cruise. Down there you can see our max speed. It's about 150 knots before we get into the yellow there. And you will overstress the aircraft if you fly too fast. So we'll try not to go too quick here. Alright, so there's a second mountain pass over that way. And that one will take you to the north end of the Palisades Reservoir, which is where Alpine is. So that's another way of getting back to the home base. I actually can make a big circle all the way around, stopping through Jackson and then Driggs, and then heading back the other way to get back to Alpine. And there's another airfield along the way as well. So there's quite a bit around here, and a lot of it is accessible via mountain passes or through valleys, and it's just kind of interesting flying. I thought about, setting up my home base where I really live, and the problem is that there's just, well, A, not that many airfields. It would be all long, very long flights, and B, the terrain's not very interesting. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, the prairies, well, maybe not Alberta, but Manitoba, Saskatchewan especially, are very flat. There's not a lot to see in most places. Where there are, it's just, small areas of interesting terrain. But by and large, there aren't any mountains. It's flat. And so it would just be these straight and level flights over bush and forest all the time. And while those are cool, I didn't want to be doing that all the time. I was looking for somewhere that was a little bit more dense, I guess, densely populated with airfields to visit and varied terrain to fly through and kind of enjoy. So this one fits the bill nicely. So there are two cut paths here, and the one up there a little bit higher up the hill, I'm not sure if it's a second road or if it's a cut for power lines or what exactly that is in reality, but the one we're concerned with is right here with all the cars on it. So this is a fairly straightforward mountain pass to follow, but it does require us to climb in a little while, and this airplane doesn't climb that well at high altitudes. It can be a little bit anemic as we get up there. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to plan it. It's not so bad going this way. It's coming back that you need to know that you're going over the mountain ridge, or you'll find yourself having to do circles to climb. So yeah, so it looks like cloud cover is pretty high today. Nothing to worry about. I tried earlier, I started thinking about recording this flight earlier, and the clouds are all much, much lower. I probably could have gotten through the valley without being in the clouds, but it might have been an interesting one on the other side, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to finish it then, and now the weather has changed, but that's kind of the nature of live weather. Alright, so we're headed up towards, or we need to start climbing. The road's going to come right around. You definitely get some oddities with the roads and the elevation data around these places. Like these roads that are just almost sideways and the cars are just driving around them. And I don't want to try to make that turn, so I'm kind of looping around. Now I've got to try to find the highway again. Thankfully, I know it's just up here off my nose. I can see some cars. But it can be pretty easy to lose the highway. As we're climbing, let's bring our RPM back up for climb power, and we're going to throw the fuel pump on, because the tanks won't feed as well, won't feed by gravity if we're pointed up like this for too long. Up and over. Now we can bring our RPM back down. Now we can turn the fuel pumps off. Now we're going to bring our throttle back and start descending. Now, I know because I've been here before, that road over there that you can see is the one that I'm interested in. That squeaking sound is the trim wheel here, and because I've bound it to a rotary on my thumb on the throttle, and the potentiometer is slowly going, it's old. Every time it moves, it squeaks. It's one of the few complaints I have about the module. One of the few things that kind of drives me nuts is every time I trim, which I do a lot, it squeaks, and it discourages me from trimming. I would like to trim more, but then I have to listen to squeak every time. Debated actually opening up the game files to see if I can delete that sound. It's one of those things that, like as a developer myself, that you think, oh, I need to have a sound for this and a sound for that, and it makes sense, and it's an authentic sound, and it sounds great, but then you don't think about how often it's going to get used and how irritating it will be over time. And so for things that get used a lot, it's like slow menu animations every time you open the main menu. It looks cool, sure, but after the 500th time you've seen it, you don't care, you just wish it would open the menu a little bit faster. And it's kind of the same thing here. After the 500th time trimming in one flight, I wish that sound would just go away. Otherwise, not too many complaints about this plane. One other one that's just not implemented yet is the defroster for the windshield. So while I can technically fly by instruments if I want to, and I don't mind doing that, it's kind of fun, if I fly through a cloud and my windshield ices up, I don't have much recourse other than to stick my head out the window, open the canopy, and stand up, basically, because there's no defroster for the windshield yet. It's coming, but the heater, I think it's down here. Yeah, if you have labels on it, it'll say not implemented there on the heater. Or maybe it's over there. Yeah, cockpit warm, ventilation warm. I think those are okay, but the defroster doesn't work. So there's our bridge across the river. Now we're going to follow the road. So if we just went left here, we could follow the water up to Jackson Hole Airport. And that's a nice, easy one to find. Need a little more power. Now we're done our descent. Man, we got slow. I don't pay enough attention to my gauges while I'm talking. I know the rule is aviate, navigate, communicate, but man, I get hung up on communicating and I forget to do the other things. Anyway, we're following the road, and this part gets a little bit tricky because you can't see the road hardly at all, but it takes us a little bit to the south and then loops back around up to the north through Jackson around these little hills here. And I did it again. I just banked way too much, but I've already lost the comfort bonus, so my one passenger that you can't see in the cockpit, which is just disappointing. As cool as it is that this plane models passengers, so there we go. In the back seat, there's a passenger. This plane adds that passenger. That's not provided by Microsoft Flight Sim, to my knowledge. You can't see pilots or passengers or any people in the cockpit while you're in it in first person. And that's a shame. I really wish that you could. I don't need to see my own pilot body, but it would be cool to see the other passengers that I have. Anyway, that's another nice touch of the module, is the adding of passengers when you put them in place. I know that's not a thing that really any other modules do, so it's one of the reasons that I like this one so much. Alright, if I bring up NeoFly again, we're now flying over the town of Jackson. If I bring up NeoFly, you can see on the GPS that we've basically followed that mountain pass more or less exactly. We're flying over Jackson right now, and we're going to head up north along the highway until we get to the sign, which should be just a couple of minutes from here. So the road's just down here above us. Now, because we're getting close to where the sign's supposed to be, I'm going to descend a little and be just above treetops. So it would definitely be easier if I took it off live weather and put it on summer weather. Oh well. I like the live weather too much to do that most of the time. Unless I need something specific, which will happen. You guys will see me do that in future videos, I'm sure. Because sometimes the live weather is just, oh, this area is just off limits for today. So if you want to fly there, well, you better set it yourself to something a little more manageable. Should be seeing the national park sign sometime soon up here. Also going to slow down and bring up some RPM. We'll bring it up to about 3,000. Hold it around there. That way we've got the power to stay slow but still accelerate as needed. Bring it down to 100 knots, give or take. Just over treetops.
Transporter, you are less than 2 nautical from the POI. Stay under 1,000 feet.
Okay. So it should be just along the highway, and it's probably... I don't see anything. Oh, we're getting a little slow.
POI as close as possible until they are done taking pictures.
Okay. I guess it's these trees.
Transporter form dispatch. Enough pictures for today. Good job. You can come back.
All right then. So that's what I mean about this really kind of making you want an actual career mode built into the game. Because I didn't see any sign. I'm pretty sure you didn't either. And I'm pretty sure there isn't one there. So we just flew around to take pictures of nothing. And as cool as the mission is, and as nice it is to have like a motivation to go and, you know, do something like that, I like the idea of the tourist mission. The fact that there's no sign there, that's a shortcoming that, you know, NeoFly can't really address other than checking all of its points of interest by hand to see if they actually exist. And that's kind of a tall order for a single developer or whatever their team is. So it just makes you think like Microsoft could do so much more with an official in-game career mode. They really could. But that was cool, you know, trying to stay within 0.5 nautical miles and also allow them to take pictures for that long without getting further than half a nautical mile away. Like, you need a plane that can do that, especially if you're going for the comfort bonus, that can stay that close without banking so hard. I probably would have been better off in one of the bush planes that goes a little slower, maybe the Shock Ultra or something like that. It's a good thing that I had already lost my comfort bonus, because I'm sure I would have lost it there. There goes that squeaky wheel. But anyway, we're just headed back now the same way. We're going to go cross over Jackson, cross the river to Wilson, take the Teton Pass, and then we'll head back to Driggs. Speed. I don't need a lot more climb, but like, you can see how you can get yourself caught here. If it were any colder and I didn't have quite enough power or enough speed, it'd be pretty easy to force yourself to circle around and come back. Up and over. Bring the RPM down, and we can bring our fuel pumps on. Throttle back so we don't overspeed. And now we know we can just follow this valley straight out. So I liken NeoFly very much to American Truck Sim or Euro Truck Sim 2. The two are very, very similar to each other. What's that? There we go. There's my runway right there. Just that NeoFly is a little bit less mature. It hasn't been out anywhere near as long. It isn't developed by such a large team. It isn't part of the game that it's adding a career mode to, but it aims to do a lot of the same things. And I think that's great because I love American Truck Sim and Euro Truck Sim. I've put a lot of hours into both of those games. I think they're really fun, and they do career modes well. It's, you know, for the most part, an extra layer of immersion and some, maybe a carrot at the end of the stick to give you things to do, different ways to play, different places to go, that kind of thing. Allows you to do like the rags to riches story, all of that stuff. And that's great. That's exactly what this sort of game really benefits from, because not everybody is great at making their own fun entirely. It's nice when the game kind of leads you a little bit and says, hey, I've got some cool things that you can do, and here's what some of those things are. Microsoft Flight Sim doesn't do that. Not really. It doesn't really point you at much other than the landing challenges and some of the bush flights. But once you get through those, if you do them at all, you know, basically there's two kinds of people. The kinds who fly over their house and get bored, and the kinds who fly into their house and get bored. So it's nice to have, for those people, to have another thing to chase or to do or motivate themselves to keep playing. For me, it just adds that extra layer of immersion. You know, it's an extra layer of, hey, this is kind of fun, I'm enjoying this, and it's more than what the game offers in terms of like actual missions or different ways to fly or reasons to go certain places or stay in certain places. Alright, we're a little low. It's okay, I'm gonna float anyway like I usually do. There, and then yeah, I'm floating a little bit again.
Transporter, you can disembark the tourists.
What? I think I broke it. I think I broke my plane.
Transporter, disembarking complete. I will call you when I have more tourists for you.
What did I do? Oh, I know what I did. I didn't put my gear down. That was the smoothest landing ever, too.
But we have survived. And on that terrible disappointment, it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back.